My name is Joseph with Community and Civic Engagement, and this is Citizens U-Chat. So today we're talking about state powers. In order to do that, I need to go over separation of powers. Most people think of separation of powers as the legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch. However, it is more commonly used to distinguish between the federal branch and the state level branch. So what things can states do that the federal government cannot? There are explicit restrictions, say like coining money or making treaties. There are concurrent powers, meaning both the federal government and the state government can do the same thing, like taxing. Hopefully we'll get into that later. There are things like police powers, which is specifically only for state governments. Police powers include the power to regulate health, safety, general welfare, morals of its citizens. There's another discussion with how the Civil Rights Act was passed. Get back to this later. There are also delegated powers, which are powers specifically delegated to either one. The quote from the Constitution goes, in the 10th Amendment, powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states retrospectively or to the people. The people. Or the people. Okay, so when this gets into practice, pretty much anything not explained in the Constitution, as long as it's not deemed necessary and proper to have for the federal government, is given up to the states. So states regulate a lot of things that you wouldn't consider that they should, or even might think that they do. A power that the states have and not the federal government is providing schooling and education, providing protection and police, providing safety and fire departments, giving driver's license, and even appropriating zoning and lands. Approving zoning and land use. The relationship between the state government and the federal government has changed a lot within the past few hundred years. For example, we used to have different types of federalism. Just for definition's sake, federalism is the distinction between the federal government and the state government. The different types of federalism we have had were the dual federalism, also known as layer cake, because political scientists like thinking about cakes. The next one was marble cake, or cooperative federalism. So when you're thinking about these ones, for layer cake, it explains it like this. The federal government has all the powers in this section of a layer, and the state government has all power in this section of a layer. They do not cross paths, they are separate, they are distinct, they don't need to work together, they each have their own separate jobs. So, however, marble cake, what ended up happening there is the Great Depression, a bunch of things happened, as you might expect that happens with the Great Depression, and they realized that, hey, the federal government and the state government, they might have some intersecting powers, they might have to work together a lot to get us all out of this thing. So they ended up coming up with the idea of marble cake. Everything is kind of together and things aren't so separate, so distinct. You know, you got some different flavors here and there and there, and it's all over. It's point. Yeah, marble cake. Okay, so then later what came up was known as New Federalism, and this is the next kind of big shift that ended up occurring. So New Federalism is interesting. It's influenced a lot recently. The most recent one that we are currently in is ad hoc federalism. To explain New Federalism, it may be easier to define another term, fiscal federalism. Fiscal federalism is when powers are given, and thus they're giving the powers to you, they expect to have to give you less money, is kind of the easiest way to just describe it. It's easier to explain in a county, state level sense. So the states are responsible for education, as we went through. So if they're responsible for education, the state funds most education. But then where does the county do? Because the state gives the counties lots of restrictions and lots of guidelines and everything that they need to do. So the state decided, you know what, we're going to give the counties more freedom. And since we're giving them more freedom to what they do, that means we don't have to give them as much money. And that's pretty much how it goes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. More power, less money. It's a trade-off. You wanted to be able to do this, so now you can, but now you don't have the funds to do it maybe as well. There are some interesting facts to that. So back to New Federalism. With New Federalism, the federal government was trying to figure out ways how to actually kind of gain power when it comes to states. It's almost the reverse of that. So with New Federalism, the federal government decided to start giving out money. Oh, example, Common Core in North Carolina. North Carolina adopted Common Core in about 2010 in order to get a grant from the federal government. Kind of these block grants that were really the rage in New Federalism. Pretty much this money came with strings attached. You accept our types of policies, you fill it in, and you take our money. It's coercion and or bribery in government and state levels is kind of how to think of it, since the federal government shouldn't have a real regulating reason to do this. Another example is speed limits. There was a state that as long as they didn't take money to repair their roads, they could have or choose whatever speed limits they wanted. However, they needed the money, so eventually they gave into the government or the federal government's demands, more or less. Maybe not demands, but requirements in order to get the money. For example, welfare used to be a specific percentage that the federal government would have to give to states. Say we had a big crisis and they ended up giving us this specific percentage of how much they were supposed to cover, which is a lot because they pay a lot of money. They decided, you know what, we're just going to give you a block grant. It will be this much money. However, if you don't have that much, let's say, people taking welfare, you can just pocket the money and take it for, other programs and other things. So this has a problem when you get like a spike of welfare and stuff in which a bunch of people need it and then you're all out of money. And that is what changed when coming to ad hoc federalism. So then what changed when it came to ad hoc federalism is that the requirements that the federal government, in order to give you money, ended up kind of loosening or getting more broad. So say they expected only to have this much amount of welfare money given to you, it would now be up to the states on how they end up lowering that number of people, whether it be the requirement of like searching for a job to get unemployment or stuff like that, or certain specific restrictions. So we ended up seeing a lot more divergence in how states ended up doing their policies because of this. That was a brief section on the different types of federalism that we have had for the past couple hundred years. So that should just about do it of me explaining state powers. States have a lot of power, which is why the governor's race is actually extremely important in this next election. Go out and vote for a governor. Even if you don't want to vote for president, just go vote for the governor at least. Okay, that's all I have to talk about. Have a nice day. This has been Citizens U-Chat.